Good morning.
Good morning.
I think I'm live, right? You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just be probably a few minutes till everyone signs on. But I figure, Sky, we can start with, you introducing yourself, and then we can go around and have everyone kind of talk about their, how many years they've been in business. That way you can kind of see and gauge who the audience is. And I'd like to introduce you to Colette. She is an amazing rep with our home warranty company.
Awesome.
Amazing. Best part is you can use your own repair people, which is like unheard of, I feel like.
That's awesome. Well, Colette, you're going to like this because I talk specifically about our partners in business and including them in our listing presentation to make us look better. Like, this is what you should be doing every time. So you'll fit right in perfectly. So I'm going to jot down that your home warranty.
It's America's Preferred Home Warranty is the name of our company. Dana, I owe you a phone call. I apologize. I got on yesterday afternoon that did not end.
No worries. Trust me, I know.
And it was with my boss, and he just kept.
You can't cancel those, can you?
No.
You're like, okay, we're here for the ride.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 90 minutes, and it just kept going. And you know how sometimes I think people just like to hear themselves talk?
Oh.
Yeah.
Especially when the boss is on.
And Dana, please, to that point, keep me on track for the end of this. Is it 1 hour usually?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I have a tendency to talk. And so I'm like, I even remind myself, like, okay, you've got to remember, like, stop talking at this point about that thing so you get to the other thing, and we'll see how this goes.
So usually I set an alarm for about like 15 minutes before we're supposed to end, just so that way, like, we can kind of wrap up, make sure we get time for questions. So that's no perfect. Problem.
And then also, while we're waiting anyway, as protocol in your state, I'm assuming every state I've ever worked in has the same thing, but I assume you guys have some kind of a state disclosure that's like, here's how agents work with their clients, whether it's buyer agency or dual agency or whatever. You have a disclosure like that, right?
Yeah, we call it the consumer notice.
Okay. And is there anything else that you have that is a disclosure like that they have to have per state, or all the rest by your office?
So it's typically the consumer notice and the buyer agency contract.
Yep. Okay.
And then within our office, we have a disclosure for all of our affiliated partners.
Okay, perfect. We don't have that in either of the offices I'm with here, but I've had that in other offices. That's exactly why I asked. So, yeah, I know there's always like so much paper or whatever you want to call it, digital now, but our clients are like, wait, what are all these things? I'm like, they're just disclosures. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
So,
Exactly. I just want to make sure you have sharing ability. Are you able to do a screen share if you need it, Sky?
That's a great question. I don't think I see it.
Okay, it should be at the bottom. It says screen share.
Yeah, I don't have that.
Okay.
Oh. Yep. Hold on. I do, but it's weird. Let's go with this. It's different than the ones I've used in the past, but I think this will work, right?
Yep, I can see it.
You're seeing it? Okay. This is my high-tech world. This is what I live with. So I'm hoping not to even need this.
Love it.
Oh, now how do I get me back? Please stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, it's terrible when I have to share. I'm one of those people. I'm like, I work with paper. And that'll come up in the presentation. I'm like, I'm a paper person. I'm still there.
When I have to write something, I still like to write it by hand first, and then I'll type it up. But I just better when I'm writing it.
Well, that's how my memory works too. So if I've written it, I remember how it looks on the page, or even if it's scribbled on a corner, if I have to say it or do it, I'll never remember it. It's just that's not how my brain works, apparently. So
I'm the same way. Good morning. Welcome.
How's it going? It's Tamay. I just made you, Dana, and Sky both co-hosts. I will be staying on in the background, but just in case it looks like you were able to share anyway as we set it up. But I
Yep, we
just wanted to
tested it
double
out.
check.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome.
And then
Welcome,
also,
Sky.
if someone's able, can you guys make your social media post shareable with the public? I'm hearing that they can't see the share.
I have it on my page and I
Yeah.
tagged you, Sky.
Yep, that's the one. There, I repeated that out to a whole bunch of people, and they're all like, I can't even see. I'm tagged, but I can't see what I'm tagged on.
Oh, I hate when social media doesn't work well. All right, I will fix that.
Thank you. Yeah, I tagged a bunch of my agent friends to be like, there's a bunch of them who've been saying, you should go around and do this online. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think so.
So the one on my page that I posted like 30 minutes ago, it is shareable.
Oh, good. Okay. I had no problem sharing it. She's just showing me like it won't bring up the post for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I have the Zoom link and all the info in there too. So they
Okay.
should be able.
That's what I thought. I mean, it looked great on my end, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what your problem is, but I'll let her
I'll
know.
share it to our KW public page as well quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's showing up on my page looking perfect. So that's why I can't imagine what it could be. So good morning, everyone else. Who we have? Are you Deidre or
rock stars on here this morning?
Deidre, good morning.
good morning?
Thanks for being here with us.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm like, this is so cool to be able to get to meet agents from around the country. It's one of my favorite things to do. So, and since we can't do like family reunion or those things for the last year, I'm like, the more the merrier.
Yeah. Well, what's so unique about your market, Sky, is being licensed in 3 different states. Whereas,
It's not an enviable thing.
Pennsylvania is like a pretty big territory. Like I don't do stuff in Pittsburgh. I can't even imagine. But I'm sure there's a lot of different like rules and regulations too with your different states. We see that very much. I see a lot of agents that are in like DC, Virginia, Maryland because the borders are so close. Is it similar where you are?
It is, but it isn't because our states aren't as small. I'm really weird. I mean, literally the brokers are like, what are you doing? And there's no broker that can cover all the states I cover. So I'm with 2 brokerages. So it's weird by anyone's standards. And it's weird by any agent standards for sure. But yes, exactly what you're saying. I mean, it's because of what I do. It's not that weird to me that same as if you were Rhode Island and Connecticut, or if you were Maryland, DC. Yeah. I mean, it's not normal, but it is. So, and I think the states have a lot of commonalities. They're all New England states. It's not like I'm licensed. Like I always think the people who are in like Florida, Texas, and New Hampshire, like talk about different worlds. They're not even the same kind of clients in those different states. When I was in Colorado and Mass, that was way more strange than where I am now.
Awesome. So it is 9:01. So thank you guys for being here. We would love to see your fabulous faces. Even if you're in your PJs, it's totally cool. Feel free to turn on your cameras if you can. Zoom etiquette, keep muted unless you want to talk. We'd love for you guys to be engaging. Sky is here to share some amazing knowledge with you guys. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then we're just going to quickly, if you guys don't mind, we'd love to hear your name and how long you've been in business, just so that way Sky can make sure that, she's curtailing her information to everyone. So Sky, you can take it away.
Thanks. So first, I'm so excited to be here. I don't get to see nearly enough other new faces of agents, especially with COVID, but just in general right now, I've just been doing a lot of local stuff, and it's wonderful for me to get out and get to meet lots of you. I am incredibly informal. That's just my style. So if you want to interrupt, ask questions, I'm much better in a conversation than I am in a presentation. As I just showed Dana, I have no materials really. I do have some things here with me that I can show you, but I'm much better live than I am ever going to be digitally. It's just how I'm hardwired. So please stop me, put stuff in the chat, whatever. And if you want any contact info later, please remind me. I'll give you my info now and I'll repeat it again later. My cell phone number is 978-877-3724. And my email is SKY, my first name, at my last name, Minckler, and Homes, and I'll put that all in the chat so you have it as well. But that anyone is welcome to call me anytime at all. I think it's so interesting when we get on these and we don't know who, and I just did my own email wrong. We don't know who we're talking to, and it feels like, oh wow, these people know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing any more than any of you. I promise you, like I've been doing this about 7 years, and you always feel like every day in real estate is new. So don't think that like I have any magic trick. I'm just sharing how I've done this and what I've learned. But there's so many ways to do this business. So I would love to hear more about you guys. And then we'll get into what the weirdness of me, but please, I'd love to know how many years you've been in business. If you've done a listing appointment before, or have you never done one because you're brand new, just so I know like who's done what. And then, yeah, whatever else you want to share with us. Is it easier if I call out? I'm just going to go around in the blocks I have, if that's okay. Colette, you're first.
Thank you, Sky. I'm Colette Staub. I'm the area sales manager with America's Preferred Home Warranty. I've been in home warranty for about 18 months, but I've been in the real estate world for 26 years.
Nice. Awesome. And then Dana, help me out. KWP Fishtown.
Yep, that's Tamay. So
Okay,
She's
sorry.
offline. Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm Tamay Nicoletti. I'm our business center coordinator and do our social media, but I am not an agent. I just stay on for technical difficulties.
Thank goodness you're here. Thank you. Deidre, I've got you next.
Morning. Yeah, I've been in the business for about 18 years. I have a small team, small but mighty team, and they're getting into doing some listings at this point too. So we're looking forward to hearing your share.
Awesome. Okay. Jennifer Nelson.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson. I've been licensed for about 20 years, took a 12-year hiatus, jumped back in right before the pandemic, and I'm making a go at it, and have found in the 12 years that a lot of things have changed. And I've been going on listing appointments since some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, but I'm just looking for a new approach, new ways to kind of do things.
Awesome. And one question there, were you guys deemed essential or were you shut down during COVID? Shut. Okay. Okay. Abby, I've got you next.
Hi, I'm Abby. I have been an agent for less than a year, never done a listing appointment before, just here to learn.
Okay. Kate?
Hi, similar to Abby, I just got my license in April. So working mostly primarily with rental clients as I learn more about buyers and sellers, but I'm excited to learn more about listing presentations. Just me personally, I have like anxiety with the thought of a listing presentation, so happy to be here.
Awesome. Okay. Mr. Patel, I don't want to butcher your first name. Good morning.
That's perfectly fine. Jigar Patel, it's very new, just like the other two. Just got my license. I've been an investor for the last 5 years as myself. I feel this is a normal, not a normal, but natural addition to my tool, to my belt. And hoping to gain some, add some units to my portfolio, as well as help other investors and increase the income streams from other ways.
Awesome. Okay. So you'd be primarily listing investment properties or any kind of listing?
I'm looking at both, right? I mean, at this point, I do want to diversify, so I just don't want to stay on investment properties, but naturally speaking, that's where I've started out anyway. So it's a good way to get into it, but I will be doing open houses just to build my client base itself. So,
okay. Remind me if I don't get to it. There's a couple things I do very differently if we're doing investment properties versus a residential home, or I do also equine homes, but there's some nuances to what people need out of what they're getting.
awesome.
Sean, you're next up.
Hi, good morning. Sean Maloney with KW Philadelphia. I've been in the business for about 8 years. I actually started in property management. So I got my license really to do residential property management. So that's where I started. I'm a full-time in sales now. Most of my business comes from my sphere of influence. So I don't want to say I've never been on a listing appointment, because I have, but a lot of times I don't want to say it just, I don't know. It just kind of happens. So I want to work on the things that won't not happen. And I want to get into more of the luxury sales. So
Awesome.
some people have mentioned, hey, maybe you should start selling. I see you selling luxury real estate. And I'd love to do that. So that's why I'm here. So thanks for having me.
Okay. Anna?
Hi. So I'm just finishing up my 3rd year, going to be starting my 4th year in real estate. I've had listing appointments, but never really a listing presentations per se, because usually people who I've been meeting with just want to sell, so they're already like a guarantee. So yeah, just trying to expand my other ways, find out other ways to get more listings and so forth.
Okay. Caleb, is it easier if I come back to you, or are you able to talk? Oh, Caleb became Christiana. Oh, no. Okay. Caleb, we'll stick with you. Can you talk?
Yes, I can. I just
Awesome,
couldn't
okay.
get to the screen where I had my unmute, or it wasn't showing up. Anyways, so yeah, I'm running around this morning because I had one showing I had to do. But yeah, I've been in the business for less than a year. This is my 1st year. I have a listing, but it was with my friend and their parents, so it was really chill. I haven't done like a full out formal one for like people I don't know. I do have to go over a lot of the things, because a lot of the things I went over they were kind of stretched out over time because of my friend's mom's health. So it was hard to do like one sit down appointment all at once. So I kind of want to get that feel for what it's normally like. And preparing for that. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Christiana? I think you're still muted.
Yes.
There you
Hi. Thank you for a very good time. My name is Christiana, and I've been in the business for a month only. I don't really have any experience with listing appointments or buyer consult, actually. So I would love to learn from you and see how you add value to your potential clients, because especially in the market, yes, you have to put something different, and I would love to learn more. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bill, I have you next. Okay. Dana, should we skip the blank screens or keep going?
Yeah, if you don't have your camera on and you are able to introduce yourself, that would be awesome. If not, we will move on.
Good morning. I can introduce myself. Hi, my name is Tiffany Gaffney. I'm also with KW Philadelphia in the Summers team. I am very interested in learning more about listing appointments. I've done my first 2 this last year. I've been a realtor for about 2 years now. And both of them went okay. One, they're actually holding off on putting their house up. And the other was with a family member. So that one's going to go through. But I would love to learn actually really how to do a listing presentation and some of the key things. And I'm very interested in potentially learning about what you do if you're working with an investor on a listing appointment. That sounds very interesting, as we do get a lot of those investor clients coming down right now from the city. So I'm very excited to be here.
Cool. Excited. Thank you. Anyone else want to leap in, or?
I can introduce myself. Hi there, my name is Sarah Pollock. I'm with Keller Williams Philadelphia. Abby and I work with each other. We're on the same team. I've been an agent since last year, so new to the business. I've had 2 listing appointments that I did with my team leader, but really interested in just absorbing as much knowledge and insight that you have to provide so that I can then do them on my own as well. So looking forward to learning a lot today.
Awesome. Okay. All right. I'm going to leap in, and if anyone else wants to introduce themselves, either chat or just raise your hand and I'll we can pop you guys in. So Dana recommended, and I think it's a great way to start, rather than like leaping right into the listing appointment itself, talking about preparing for the listing appointment. And I think we overlook that a lot in our business. We just are, especially when you're new, you're like, oh my gosh, I just need like the listing presentation. And for me, the listing presentation is like getting to the game. But if you haven't practiced and you haven't gone to, all of your practice sessions, you're not going to be able to perform at the game. And I'm not a sports person, so don't believe that I have like a football analogy coming up, because that's not going to happen.
Hey, equine is a sport.
Yeah, well, yes, but it's more for me. You can't just go in with a booklet and a whole bunch of brochures and hope to win the listing appointment. It's not going to work. It doesn't matter what materials you bring in there. When I get ready for a listing appointment, and for me, it doesn't matter whether it's investment, best friend, parents. I've worked with lots of family members at this point, and I've learned, don't skimp on them. You treat them like a client every single time, because they may know you and they may like you, but they may not see you as a professional because you're their kid, their family member, their friend, whatever. And so you need to treat them just like a professional too. So you go in and you're prepared. And by prepared, I normally bring a lot of information I don't need. I'll really briefly go in because everyone here is Keller. Disc profiles are probably something you've heard about, or if not, you will hear about. I can be a high D, and I can be a high S, and I can be a high C. It just depends on which version of the disc I'm taking. I'm never a high I, meaning I'm not really a big, like, I get all my high off other people. But I can be very organized and I can be very analytical. I'm normally more of a driver. And so with all that, I like data. I like to bring it. I always go on every property. You're going to, at bare minimum, you have an address. That's literally, I've had it where I don't know the owner's name. They're like, oh, this is the property I have for sale. And for whatever reason, I don't even have their name. So I at least have an address. Well, that means I can go find a deed and I can go find a property card. And I do both those things and I print them out so I can carry them with me to the house. But I check that ahead of time. That's going to let you know, does this person even own the house they say they own? Is there a random other person on that deed that nobody's mentioned up until now? And just start to collect your data and start to ask your questions. If the deed has easements all over it, what are those easements? It's not our job to understand the deed in full detail. We don't have to go out and walk the property, but you want to know if there's going to be some complications that you can ask about at that listing appointment, and you'll already sound more knowledgeable about the property. Like, oh, I saw there's a utility easement. Can you show me the power lines? And if they're like, what? We didn't know. Those are just great points that are going to make you look more prepared, more organized. So those are two things I start with right off the bat. We were talking about the difference of like investor clients or luxury clients, or even your parents or whatever. If you're doing a listing appointment for your brother, you don't need to go Google your brother and figure out who the heck he is. You already know. But if I'm doing a luxury client or an investor client, pretty much almost anyone, I'll start a Google search on them. Who are they? Who is Abby Heller? And I'll Google the name and I'll try a couple variations on that. I'll go on LinkedIn. I want to know something about them ahead of time if I can, because if I know that this is a CEO of a major corporation and they've got homes in 3 different states and they're here, there, and everywhere, I'm not going to waste this individual's time. They're probably not looking for me to give a whole nice, pretty presentation. They want to know the nuts and bolts as fast as they can get it. And I need to be prepared to give stuff fast and be out of there because they're probably a high D. On the flip side, when I have a lot of my horse clients, they get all the marketing, but they're not going to ask me a darn thing about that. They're going to want to know what I know about horses. And so I just want to know who I'm dealing with as quickly as possible so I can assess what's going to be most helpful to them. And if I'm wrong, I have my backup stuff. But those are, you're a little stalkerish. That's a good thing. Be a little stalkerish. Figure out who these people are. If you can't, you can't. But any information you have going into that appointment is going to serve you down the line because you're going to have information. I have a past as an attorney, and in litigation, you never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. So I feel that way in real estate a lot. Like, know as many answers as you can get ahead of time so that you're not sitting there at the appointment going, oh, I didn't know you had an easement through your backyard for a pipeline. Like, that's probably not good. So that's getting ready in the document sense for me. I also have a packet It doesn't matter how new you are. You can go buy a folder down at Staples, and in this packet is a whole lot of stuff. It doesn't matter what's in here, because really what it's all about is I stage every property. So there's a stager brochure in there. I do professional photography for every property. So that brochure is in there. There's a bio sheet on me in there. Colette and I were talking ahead of time. If I think a home warranty is going to be useful for that seller, I'll bring my home warranty information. I might bring insurance information if it's one of my equine people. You know, you can figure out what's useful to this client and what can I have in this packet for them. That's going to be left with them. That's going to be my calling card once I've been to the appointment. So I want to have some things in there that make me look like I know what I'm talking about and I have the right people behind me to support me. Also in there is going to be a copy of the consumer notice, a copy of the buyer agency agreement, and any other documents that that seller might need to sign at the first appointment. And not that I'm going to have them sign it there, but that they're going to see it and go, okay, these are the papers. I do that for two reasons. If they want and have time to go through every paper, because some clients will, then we'll go through every single paper and we'll sit there and we'll show them all the different notices. We'll talk about all the ins and outs. There are other clients who do not care. You're already there. You've already got the appointment. If someone said like, I'm already a shoo-in, no one else is being interviewed. I don't force them to sit through something they don't want to sit through. But if they want to see it in hard copy, that might give them comfort and make them feel like I'm meeting their needs, because I'm not just saying, oh, and I'm going to digitally send you everything. It's all e-signable. A lot of people aren't comfortable e-signing and they're not comfortable reading online. So bring them something so they can see their alternative. And if they want to go through it, go through it. I'll say to them, I'll open up this brochure and I'll say, hey, we got all this stuff. Do you want to go through this? No. Okay, perfect. If you have any questions later, it's all here for you. You can ask me questions later. So this is my packet going in. I also do have a listing brochure. If you're on a team that offers that, bring it. If you have them already, bring them. If you don't have them, do not panic. It's not a problem. You can do this without a listing brochure. I think they're very nice if you have them. Mine is small enough to fit in the folder, which is a key because you don't want this thing getting all sloppy and being like multi-problematic for you. And it's spiral bound. I normally tab one page. And I'll say, oh, this is the page I want you to see the most. And so we go through that one page. It can be whatever page makes sense for you. Maybe it's testimonials. Maybe it's moving checklist. Maybe it's something else. I also have in here like preparing your home for sale. That's a big one with most of my luxury clients, especially, but even with my regular clients, like preparing your home, even in this market, still will gain you money. So I tend to highlight something that I think will be of interest. If it's my investor client, I'm probably just going to highlight like the what I do for you page, because they're not worrying about preparing their home for sale or some of these other things. They're just trying to get that thing on the market and get as much as they can net. So just know your audience and get the page that makes the most sense if you have a selling brochure. Most people won't go through it at their house. They might not even ever look at it. That's not the point. The point is you're bringing them something that has your branding, that has your name, that has your information, and makes you look like you know what you're talking about. So that's the part of the brochure for me. It's not about, again, we're going to sit down and go through every page. Most clients don't have that time or inclination. So that's my packet. I've got my packet, I've got my deed, and I've got my property card going with me to the house. And normally, because I'm really prone to getting into things and forgetting about them, I put that consumer notice staple or right clip to the top of the thing to remind me like, yeah, you got to get this signed. I don't know what your rule is, but at ours, it's the first business meeting. So I always put it right on the top. I'm like, this is a disclosure. I highlight the part that says this is not a contract. This is a disclosure. And I say to them, like, I just need this for my office and I'm going to send you a copy when I get home. Even if you don't have to do that in your state, because I'm in 3 states, one requires that they get a copy of it and the other 2 don't care. It is a wonderful way to follow up and show that you follow up. So just get in a practice of some way that you can communicate with them after. So that's the packet. That's preparing for the listing appointment. During COVID, when we did most of our listing presentations this way, all of that would be mailed, or well, the packet would be mailed to my client ahead of time. And I'd say, I'm going to overnight this to you. Yes, it costs money. Just do it. Overnight it to them. Also, if they're remote. If for some reason your seller is not in state, like maybe with an investor, you've got someone who's in an adjacent state or something else, mail it to them. Make sure they get this packet one way or another so that they have it when you first do this face-to-face or business meeting. So that's kind of the preparing. in advance, a day or two in advance, whatever time frame you have. Any questions on that portion? Okay, I'm going to move on then. So the morning of the appointment, and I don't care what your gender is. The morning of the appointment is very important to me because I get nervous about listing appointments. I get nervous about online presentations. I get nervous about a lot of things, but I've never let those nerves create a conflict where I won't do something. So I have little rituals that I do. I get dressed. I get showered. As I said, I'm very casual. I'm normally in pajamas or jeans at most. I never go to a listing presentation in jeans unless I know it's at a barn where they're going to ask me to be in jeans most of the time. But I try and do something special. I'll take a shower. I'll put on some makeup, which I never wear. I put on earrings, which I rarely wear. Whatever it is for you in your world, feel confident going in there that you're kind of looking right today. Now, some of your clients are like, I don't know where, you might meet your various clients, but I have a lot of clients who are very country, very rural. They don't need me to be fancy. It's not about dressing up necessarily and wearing a suit to the presentation. It's more about feeling ready to go in every way. So you're not showing up in your pajamas or jeans or just rolled out of bed or whatever that effect is. For me, it helps me mentally be like, today is a special day. We're doing something different. I have all my materials in the car ready to go. I bring water. I bring a snack. I'm the most prepared person you can imagine, because that way if something goes wrong, I'm not freaking out on my way there and I'm not showing up 20 minutes late, which is a pet peeve of mine in real estate. Like, you need to be 10 minutes early to your listing appointment. And if you've ever taken Bold, or if you haven't, please take Bold. They talk about this. Get to the house 10 minutes early, sit in front of it, take a picture of it so you have it for your DocuSign stuff later. Take a look at the outside. Is the roof in bad condition? Is the siding in great condition? Is there nice landscaping? Can you imagine how you'd photograph this? Whatever it is. And then if you're arriving at the door a few minutes early, you can apologize for that and just say, hey, I'm always a little eager to be here, or make a funny joke about it. And otherwise, you're there on time. I've had multiple times where you have a problem, you get lost, there's a reroute, there's a detour, there's a gas station need, whatever it is. So you want to be prepared to be there smack on time, not a minute late. And then I know that there's a lot of people who say, okay, well, once you're there, you need to own the room. You need to decide what you're doing. Don't accept a drink of water, whatever. I'm a mirror matcher. So if I go to someone's home and they say, come on in, I'm like, oh, thanks, that's great. If they say, do you want a glass of water? I answer that question honestly. I'm not like, oh no, don't ever take anything from anyone. You've got to find your style as you go through this. So determine what you feel like you're going to do, but I let them pick. Do you want to go through the house first, or do you want to sit and talk about the paperwork first? They see that as accommodating in my mind. Like, I'm not here to be all bully. I'm here to be me, and I'm here to help you. So very often they will want to go through the house first because they're more comfortable with that part, and that's fine. And so we go through pretty quickly, and I'll say, what is it you love about your house? What is it that you've done to this house? And as they're walking through, I've got a notepad and I am scribbling notes nonstop. Some of it you're going to need to just scribble on your own. If you walk in and there's hardwood floors and ceiling fans and exposed beams and all that, write it down, because you'll forget by the time you get home. I guarantee it. I don't care how small the house is. So I write down things that I'm going to need for my listing on the MLS. As they're telling me, oh, well, we remodeled this kitchen a few years ago. How many years ago? I was like in 2008. Okay, that's more than a few years ago in our world, but at least I know they've done stuff. And I'll say, oh, when, pick something in the room. When did these lights go in? Oh, they were here originally. Okay, great. When did these windows go in? Are they new windows, old windows? Just start asking questions as you go through the home that they can answer. It helps them relax, but it also helps you know, has there been significant change to this home since they purchased it that would help me price out this property? Also, it might alert you to problems. Oh yeah, we put that deck on, 10 years ago, or we did the refinishing of the basement ourselves. Was it permitted? Was it not permitted? How's that going to play out for me as a listing agent down the road when someone asks me that same exact question? And so again, I'm data collecting. I'm asking the questions that need to be asked as you go through the home. I'm really not talking, because they always want to say, oh, what should we do to this room? That's not my job. That's my stager's job. And I pay for a staging consultation at every single property unless it's a tear down house. So a stager consultation is where the stager comes in for about 2 hours, talks to the client, and says all the stuff that they need to do to get this home ready. I'm not the one saying you got to get rid of the knickknacks. I'm not the one saying you've got to clean your house. I'm not the one saying the stuff's in the wrong place. I'm the friend. I'm later going, you don't have to worry about that. That sounds crazy. That sounds over the top. My stagers know that ahead of time. They know I'm going to undermine them, and they're totally fine with it because their job is to get in there and deliver reality to the client. My job is to be the nice friend, the good person who's helping them list this place, and not to be, wow, this is awful. I also explained to them that every single item on that list that they do will earn them more money in the end. The more that they can get that home truly ready and to go and shine, the more money they're going to net. And so we'll talk about it, and I'll say, hey, I give them a pricing long after this appointment. I will give them a price based on what I saw today and what you could get after the stager's here. And then they get to decide how much they want to work. So that's just something we'll keep talking about. And if they keep asking, you'll just say, oh, well, the stager will come in and do that. I would pretty much guarantee that somewhere in your universe, there is a stager who will do a staging consultation. Dana, you've got a question.
Yeah. So what price point in Philadelphia, we have quite a range,
Yep.
Some of our investment properties, it might not financially make sense for stagers. Yep. On average, I know you said for you and your properties, you stage all of them.
All of them.
What's the price point that, majority of the homes that you're listing are in? Because that might not make sense for $100,000 home.
Correct. And my answer is it doesn't matter. I've done it on $100,000 homes. I've done it on $4 million homes. It's different in a $4 million home, no doubt about it. The reality is this: if it's a residential property, it makes sense. You're going to net your client more money. I also choose to pay for that staging, which a lot of agents are like, oh, let the client pay for it. Well, first of all, huge value add to be able to walk in the room and say, I'm the agent who's going to pay for this for you because I believe in it so much. Think about the fact that we work on commission. If you work on whatever commission of apples you work on, you're going to get more money the higher the price of sale, right? So it behooves you to spend $200 up front, just like professional photography. I don't ever take out my iPhone and start snapping away for the MLS. I'll do that for me, so I have a record maybe, but I won't do it for the MLS. So for me, it's worth it with my stagers and the rates we've worked out. Every property, every time, as long as it's residential. Now, as I said, tear down, investment, vacant home. I'm not going to stage a vacant home. It's vacant, but there are things you can definitely do on any price point that's going to make you money down the road. And I'm pretty sure it's going to make you the cost of that staging consultation. Daphne.
Yes, hi. I love the staging idea. I've thought about it before for properties that don't list very quickly and people need help visualizing, possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
How much more value does a staging opportunity bring, for example, to a $100,000 studio versus like a $400,000 home? Because I know that's something. What's the value proposition behind it? Because you also need to get the seller to agree to the staging opportunity.
Well, and so that's the beautiful thing on the way I do it. The seller doesn't have to agree to it, other than the fact that they're going to do the work to get it ready. They don't have to pay a single penny. The only pennies they're going to pay is if they choose to use, and this is why the stagers want to do this consultation. If they choose to use the stager's professional abilities after I leave there, after they've done the consultation, that's on the seller. And they know that walking into this. So all I'm paying for is the 2-hour consultation where the stager will go in, make a whole bunch of notes, send them those notes, send me the notes, and then that's the end of it on my end. Now, if the client says, oh my gosh, I'm going to need help doing everything you've just said, the stager's like, awesome, happy to help. We're not bringing in furniture. We're not, they might say, go buy some throw pillows, go buy a nice colored blanket, get new bedspreads. That's a big one, is making the master bedroom look really luxurious. As far as value proposition, you asked a specific question of like, what's the actual dollars and cents of it? 10 to 15% on the list price is about what the stagers will tell you is the number. And when you look at it, just think in your own market. When you walk in a home, I don't care price range. It's clean, it's tidy, and it's decluttered. your clients are like, oh, this looks great. When you walk in a place and there's trash spilling out from under the sink and you don't see the granite countertop at that point. You're so distracted by the muck that's going on that most clients can't see past that. So that's why I do it at any price point. I also don't ever want to be in a violation of anything where people are like, well, why'd you do that for that house, but not for me? And it's also why I don't normally allow my clients to refuse the staging. I just say, they're going to come in, they're going to do it. I'm going to pay for it. You don't have to do anything. And I've had some clients opt to do absolutely nothing. That's fine. Yes, it's a waste of my money at that point in time, but for all the other times that people do it and we get 50 to 75,000 over whatever they thought they were going to get. And it's not always over list, to be clear. This helps their list price. So it's not just about, oh, like in this great market we're in, this works in a down market too, because the house will look better than the other houses on the market at any price point. How many people stage a $100,000 listing? None. One. Now you're coming in to that listing and you're saying, I'm going to do this for you. And they go, wow, that's really different. That's something that nobody else is doing. Even if they don't really want it, they hear you're offering something that nobody else has offered. And professional photography, I find the same at that lower price point. People go, well, you're going to do professional photography? Yeah, I'm going to do professional photography. That's for me. That's my calling card. Because if I have stuff online that looks bad, that haunts me for the rest of my life. You look up on Zillow and you see my iPhone, living room with no lights on and trash spilling out. I look like I have no idea what I'm doing. You look at my $100,000 listing and it's shiny and bright and well lit and you can see the scene out the window and they're going, wow, nothing looks like that online at this. I mean, people will come flocking to your open house because your house looks good. They might be disappointed when they get there. I've had that several times, but that's not my problem. My problem is getting them in the door, right? That's our job. So for me, both those investments are well worth it. And almost always that value add blows people out of the water at lower price points. At high price points, everyone's doing that. That's like normal. But at the lower price points, I bet you'll win the listing appointment if you go in there confidently and say that's what you're going to do.
So Sky, what you're doing is in-home staging, not a stager that's bringing in outside furniture.
Correct. Exactly. It's a consultation. And we've actually even been talking about calling it a residential consultation instead of staging, because staging has this persona out there. But the stager is the one doing that consultation for them. And that way it is a professional opinion. It's not just me walking around going, wow, I think this would look nice. It's a professional who does this, who's coming in to do that for them. And it's for me also, here's the added bonus. Now you get to go talk to 2 or 3 stagers and find out if they'll do this for you. And you're making great professional networking. So even if you don't start using this right away, when you need it, you'll have it. And so again, a lot of this, I like working with the team theory. I've been on teams, I've run teams, and now I'm solo again. I've always called myself a team, no matter what. Because I have Colette, I have my lenders, I have my photographers, I have all these people. I couldn't possibly do this by myself. There's no way. You need your support. And so you're selling that to your clients every time as well. It's not just me, it's all these people who work with me all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Just going back to staging, what do you think of virtual staging?
So virtual staging is really tough to me. I look at it from the consumer point of view. As I talked about earlier, disappointing the people who come to your property is challenging enough. To do it in such a way that you're really, it depends on the virtual staging to begin with. There's virtual staging that is putting furniture in a room essentially. I have yet to see one where I haven't really been able to tell that that's what they did without, a few seconds on it. There are some that are better than others. There are some that are just bad. Don't do bad virtual staging. I can't stand when you see a chair floating on a floor and you're like, I have no idea what just happened here. It's just, it looks weird. And to me, it's off-putting. I'm like, as a consumer, I'm going through like, I don't want to see that house. That looks really freaky. There's other ones in my market right now where I am. There's a lot of high-end luxury homes that are trying to sell what should be a flip house. And this flip starts at 800,000. So we're talking a high-end flip. But they're trying to sell, let's say, a center hall colonial from the 1970s that really hasn't had much done to it. And they do a full-on add crown molding, add chair rails, add beautiful chandeliers, add wonderful furniture. And you walk in this place and you're like, this is a misrepresentation. I don't like it. I'll just say it that way. I don't like it. I know people need to do it. If I had a vacant home that wasn't selling with a huge open floor plan, I would be tempted to use it because it's cheaper than staging for sure. I think most of the time it looks fake. And so for me, I'm very, very honest as an agent. I try to always be very genuine with my clients. I don't see the value to me, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people who would argue with that. And so you just have to do what works for you. And that's the end of the day with all of this. If you're trying to do something that's not you, it won't work. So if you don't buy into the staging concept, don't start using it yet. Maybe consider it down the road, but you need to go with what you can sell because it needs to be your value add. It's not my value add. So if it doesn't speak to you, don't do it. If you love virtual staging, say that's what you're going to do to the house. It's just got to be how you operate. I will say, Dana knows I'm in equine property a lot. The house is not the point of being where I am. I still do the staging for them. I still say, let's just make it look as good as we can. And then we talk about staging the barn, which is a whole nother prospect. Photographs are your first image of this house, no matter who you are. So if that stuff looks good, the property will do better online. If they get there and they go, wow, it's not that tidy in real life, I don't care. But we're always honest. I don't edit any photos. My photographer won't edit photos. They make the lighting look a little better, and that's about it. They won't green up. They now are starting to green up grass and blue sky. But other than that, they won't change a wall. They don't use the fish lens to make the room look enormous. Be careful of all that stuff because people get frustrated when they see what looks like a giant kitchen and it turns out you can barely have a dishwasher under the sink. So as the listing appointment goes on, we're sitting there, we're talking about the house. We are, basically just trying to gain all the information I possibly can. I do not give prices at the listing appointment. I always need to recontact the client for whatever reason. And hopefully I have more than one reason by the time we get there. I might give them a price range if I'm able to. Some houses, you just kind of know you're in a neighborhood. It's a center hall colonial. It's this many square feet. The bathrooms are this way. You might have a gut instinct. I almost never am in a neighborhood I've been in before. I'm almost never in a home that's like other homes that I've been in before, or I might be in different states. So I'm always in a custom home situation, and people don't mind hearing that. Your home is so unique and custom that I'm going to need to go home and look at some comparatives and come back and give you a number either tonight, tomorrow, next week, whatever the time frame is that you've worked out. One of the big things that I have not even touched on yet is when I'm in the house with these people, I am asking 8 million questions as I go through. And that's why I bring the notepad. And that's why I say I'll never remember what's in your home. I'm asking questions like, and this doesn't matter whether it's at the table doing the paperwork or walking around their house, we get it accomplished one way or another. Why are you moving? Where are you going? I might be able to get a buyer out of this as well. They called me for the listing, but can I get the list and the buy? That's a wonderful situation. And now I control the whole deal, so I know exactly what's happening. Maybe they're going out of state. May I connect you with some people I know out of state? I might get a referral. So it's not just that I want more money. It's I actually want to help you, but wouldn't it be great if it could benefit everybody at the same time? So that's a huge thing that as you're going through, don't assume that they're going somewhere else. They know where they're going. Also, it might turn out they have no idea where they're going. Well, now you need to talk about a plan, especially in this market. What are you going to do if your house sells in 30 days? They might not have thought about that. If they haven't sold in a long time, they might not realize our market's moving that fast. What do you mean 30 days? I thought I had 60 to 90 days. Talk to them if they need it about rent backs. No, they're not fun. No, they're not popular. No, attorneys don't like them, but that might be best for your client and you're not there for the buyer. You're there for the seller. So start to ask those questions so you know, again, what pitfalls might come up. If your client's suddenly homeless and they don't want to leave, that's a problem for you. So as much as you can get and start heading off ahead of time, or at least discussing with them, like, wow, that might be a problem that you thought. I just had we put in an offer this week and the person came back and they want closing in October. My folks were like, what? We're not closing in October. We need to be in the house by August, So nobody ever mentioned anywhere in the process, despite us asking, hey, is there a timeline preference? Nobody mentioned that they wanted a 4-month closing. Well, somebody should have talked about that and put that in the MLS ahead of time saying seller prefers 4-month closing. It would have been really great to know that. So ask those questions as you're going through with them and get an idea where they're going, what they're doing. I also will tell my folks like, hey, when we all list, I'm going to need, and always when we list, not if you choose me or if you decide to work with me. No, when we list, I'm going to need a document. It can be an email or some other kind of formal document with all the improvements you've ever done since you moved here. There's multiple reasons for that. A, I like to know what improvements they've done. B, I want to go find out their permits, right? We've already talked about in the house, but a lot of people don't remember until they go through. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, of course we redid the kitchen 10 years ago. Well, I want to know that. What about the furnace? What about, all that? So they put together that document for me. It's not my word saying they did it. It's their word saying they did it. It goes on the MLS. It's very handy to have. It's a great talking point at the open houses, all those things. So there's things that I'm talking to them as we go through the house of when we list, when we do this, when we get under contract, we'll have to do this. Just keep talking as if you own it. And I think for the new people out there who said they were nervous, as I said, I'm always nervous every single time. Doesn't matter how many times I do it. I also always tell them I'm assuming I'm getting the listing. I don't care. I never ask the question, are there other people you're interviewing? I don't care. I'm here for me. You're working with me. I'm working with you. This is great. And I even put it to them if we decide to work together, because maybe I'm not going to take this listing. If I believe the house is priced at $750,000 and they tell me we need to list it $1 million, I'm not taking the listing. So there, and I will talk to them about that. I'll say, we both need to decide we want to work together on this, because pricing is a huge issue in our market. Not right now as much because things are selling high, but I'll tell you that I've got a listing that I took that I shouldn't have taken, and I knew it, and it was too high, and they didn't want to lower, and we just canceled the listing because I won't sit there with an overpriced listing for long. It makes you look bad as an agent. Why are you 300 days on market at $1 million when it's clear you should be at 750? What kind of agent are you to allow that? So just go in with, I'm here to work with you and help you, and I've got this listing. They can tell you if you don't have it, but it doesn't matter. And so and again, this is all not the way other agents would do it. Other agents would say, you got to know, you got to know who you're against. Dana.
Just for the agents, Sky had mentioned a really great point about, we're going to list what are the improvements you've done. In Pennsylvania, we call that the seller's property disclosure. So it's actually a formal document that the seller has to fill out. You as an agent cannot fill it out for them, and it's signed by the seller, and then we put that on the MLS. And we also have that available. The buyer needs to initial and sign that they've received it, they've read it over. If anything comes up on home inspection and you cancel the contract and put it back on the market and repairs are done, you'll want to make sure your seller updates that seller's property disclosure too.
And so to be clear too, we have in 3 of the states I'm in, 2 of the states require a seller property disclosure also. I don't necessarily care, because I find that when they go through that, first of all, there's things on there that word in a different way sometimes than how you might think of your own improvements. Like you don't have to necessarily put that you did new carpets on your seller property disclosure, but that's important to a buyer if your carpets are 5 months old, or maybe you would put in probably that you have a hardwood floor somewhere, but you might not specify that you redid the hardwood floors in the kitchen or the living room or wherever. So I like this little list, because also you don't have to provide the list online, but at least for you got their word. And then when they fill out the property disclosure and you're like, you never mentioned the basement remodel, they're like, oh shoot, you're right. So for me, it's a little bit of a catch-all. Like, yes, we're not supposed to fill out the seller prop disclosure, but on the flip side, you should be looking it over going, you never mentioned the new furnace on here or whatever. But then for the stuff that wouldn't show up on that disclosure, now you've got another sheet to kind of go, this is so cool. Because also they'll say things like, we replaced all the bathroom hardware. Okay, it's not structural, but it's still a nice ad that somebody went through and did those things. Or closet, the big one is closet organizers. If somebody put in really nice closet organizers, I want to know that's a value add. That walk-in now looks really nice rather than just the bar hanging across. So great point. Thank you for reminding me. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to collect that you may or may not use, or you may duplicate, but they don't feel like you're duplicating it because they're like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to write this on my own. And I call it homework. One of my first trainers ever said, if the client won't follow through with the homework, they're not going to follow through with a lot of stuff for the rest of the deal. So if they can't follow through with my one little homework sheet that behooves them, we probably are going to be up for, remind them about every single deadline, remind them about every single thing they have to do. Where is the oil, prorating, all that kind of stuff. So that's good. We're down to 15 minutes left. I'd love to open this for questions because I've kind of been all over. So if you guys have specific questions or general questions, please just start raising your hand or doing whatever out there.
Kate, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I did. I was just curious. So how will the sellers find the exact year that they added an improvement to their house? I could picture a lot of people being like, I don't know, a couple years ago. Like, how do you deal with that?
So that's what they're definitely going to tell you in person. When you're in person, they're gonna be like, oh, we did that recently, or we did that a little while ago, or we did that when we first moved in, and that's fine. I don't need a year. If they later, often when they go back, they will go look stuff up. They'll look on their credit card bill, or they'll look on their banking or whatever, or they'll actually have like paperwork from the new, whatever. And that's great if they can give me a year, or they'll say approximately 2010 or approximately 2008. That's why it's great. And because now it's not in the seller property disclosure. So now it's not a legal document. It's just kind of like a roadmap that they provide me. And you write right on it. If you do put it on the MLS or provide it to your buyers, you will say as provided by name of client. That way it's not in any way, shape, or form coming back to you. I never brand that thing. I never put my name on it. I just write it there for informational purposes. Also, that reminds me, so going back to any property, whether it be, if it's an investment property and there's a current tenant, if it's a multifamily or some kind of rentable property where there's a current tenant, in my world with equine, we're often doing facilities where there might be board and lease and all kinds of income streams. Some clients are going to be very comfortable saying, this is a business, I'll provide everything, I'm going to document this all, here are my utility bills, here's my rent, here's my this, here's my that. Others are not. And they're going to be like, well, I get about $700 a stall. I get about $2,500 a month in rent. I have them do another sheet. And that sheet is, again, just like this other one. It's not my stuff, but they have to tell me, what are they getting for rents? What are they doing for costs? Who's paying the utilities? So if they've been a rental for a while, who's paying for what? What's included with rent? What's not included with rent? Are there parking spaces, not parking spaces? Again, that might help me know, like, go find the deed. Does it include the parking space? Is there somewhere? And also you want to know that stuff anyway. So you might as well ask them to provide it. But that way it's not me on the hook for saying, you told us the heat was included. And now we're finding out during due diligence it's not. I'm just doing what my client told me to do. So I always try and have my client provide that information. Of course, I'm going to go look it up if I can, call the HOA, whatever it is. But a lot of times clients can give you that ballpark stuff up front, and you can provide that to other people.
Abby, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask what the most common objections you have come up during listing appointments are, like things to expect to just have a go-to script ready for.
So there's not an easy answer to that. I would say a lot of people will say that one of the big ones is commission. And that's, so remember I said in the packet, I have the buyer agency agreement with me in paper. I keep a lot of the blanks that are in the form blank, very intentionally. I do not leave the commission blank. The commission is written in right then and there. Here's what it is, black and white. I don't back down. Or I shouldn't say don't back down. I don't bring it up, but I put it there for them. And if they say, oh, is this the normal rate? I'll say, well, there is no normal rate in our state. It might sound like there is because some agents like to say that there is, but there really isn't. I've seen higher, I've seen lower. And I pause, and if they don't bring anything else up, I move on. As a result of the way I present it, I get asked very, very infrequently anything else other than that. It's right there. It's in the contract. You see what it is. You either like it, don't like it, whatever. And then they might come back later and say, like, and that's why, again, I'm leaving this in paper form for them, right? And all over it says sample. They can't sign it. There's nothing to sign. When they call me back, they might say, well, are you willing to reduce your commission? And I'll say, well, why would I? And they might start a conversation about, oh, well, we found someone who might do it for lower, or we don't really know about that staging stuff. And I say, oh, but I'm paying for the staging. That's not costing you guys anything. You don't have to worry about that. So that doesn't seem like a big problem. And they're like, well, if we didn't do the staging, would you reduce your commission? No, because I believe in the staging. I believe that's important. I believe the photography is important. I don't want to use your photographs that you took 20 years ago of the way the pool used to look in the summer. And I just go through and I'm like, no, because I really believe in these things. That's why I'm willing to pay for them. That's why I'm willing to take the upfront cost of all of this. And I'm going to put it forth on your behalf because I know that this is the tried and true way to get the best exposure for your property and net you the most money in the end. And they're like, oh, okay. Now, This is not to say I never change my commission. I can. There are times and circumstances where I will agree that there's a reason to change my commission. Maybe they're going to buy and sell with me. So maybe I'm willing to change my commission based on the second to close. Maybe there's some other extenuating circumstance, but you need to know your value when you go in that room. And if you don't know your value enough to put it down in black and white and stick to it, you might want to consider the number you put on the page. I don't care if people want to go in much less. I don't care if people want to go in much higher, but you should know your value and how you're bringing that to the table. Now, maybe they're kind of like, well, wait a minute, I'm paying you all these apples and I've got to pay more apples to the buyers. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's my fault for not being clear. That number is the buyer. That includes that. Well, can we lower that number? Well, we can lower that number, but unfortunately, there's some agents out there. I'm not one of them, but there are some out there who, if they see a lower number, they might not show the property. And they're like, what? And so then you kind of go into that. I'm sorry, this is kind of what the buyers are expecting to see. We could go a little bit lower maybe, but I'm here to tell you that if you give a little bit more, that buyer agent's going to work harder to stay in this deal and keep it all together because they know they're getting a little bit more than they thought. So I always err on the side of a little bit more, but if you want to bring that down a little bit, we can. I'm also I don't know what your state requires. I don't necessarily believe it has to be a 50-50 split. So if they want to cut out the buyer a little bit more, I disagree with the decision, but I will take it a little bit off there. As they start to go away at my commission, there has to be a really good reason for that. Why are you discounting my commission? What's going to happen? What am I not going to do? Because quite frankly, and they'll say to me, well, I don't need you to do this and that. That's the way I do business. I'm not going to change my business because of how you want to present. You should probably find a different agent. And the moment you say that, they're not going to be like, okay, I'll go find another agent. They're like, wait, what? What are you doing? And so you better explain your proposition again. Maybe they didn't understand it all. Maybe you didn't get a chance to explain it all, but there's something in there that's making them still talk to you. So I believe firmly that commission is really rarely an issue. And in my own practice, it isn't. And that's why, again, I don't worry about what John Smith is doing with his listing presentation, because I'm here to tell you this is how I do it. And sometimes I have to say, I know you won't know until I'm either gone or you've listed with the wrong agent, but I am the best agent for your job. And they'll be like, maybe they'll be like, yep, we know you are. And they're already agreeing and ready to sign. Or maybe they'll be like, wow, you just got to go talk to someone else. I don't mind losing listings. If they don't believe I'm the best person for the job, that's probably best we don't work together, in my honest opinion. And that's not to be cocky. That's not to be anything else. It's literally, I know how hard I work on my listings. I work really hard. I lose a lot of sleep over my clients. So if I can project that to them, they're normally going to figure that out. And somebody brought up earlier, I work almost only with my sphere. I don't really advertise. I don't do postcards. I did all that stuff. I did the door knocking. I've been there, done that. Even in new states, I work from my sphere. So they already kind of know who I am and what I'm about. I'm usually the only listing agent. But even when I'm not, it's the same exact presentation. It's the same. I don't need to discuss any of this stuff, but I'm willing to discuss all of it. You have to know your materials. I will say that for the new agents. Don't bring a document you don't know. That's the worst thing you can do. If you're sitting there like, I don't know what that is. Like if you have a booklet and it's from your team, know what's in the booklet. Because when they ask about page 2 and you're like, gosh, what is that? Oh, technology. I don't know what technology we have. Like you got to know it. And, it's kind of silly to be there without knowing it.
I love that you bring up the discount. I always heard, someone that's willing to discount or give you a reduced commission, are probably also going to give you a reduce in service as well.
Yep.
And I think that's huge. And especially when you're new, you feel sometimes a little desperate, and you want to give so that way hopefully you can get, the listing. But honestly, guys, like if you don't value yourself and what you bring to the table, you can't expect the client to either.
Right. And I think too, there's a whole, the people who have huge volume, you might have a slightly reduced rate that you charge. A lot of the teams you'll see are higher because they have a lot of stuff they support with. You're getting marketing, you're getting TCs, you're getting all these great things. So know what you're bringing and be able to bring it. It might not all be you. That's, you know, and that's the other part. You might bring in your team. I remember when I was on a team, I was touting my team left and right. I've got 4 agents who can be there at a moment's notice in case anything goes wrong. There's one other huge difference that I do, and I think this helps on listing side. I will not double side deals to the point of I'm willing to reimburse commission if something goes without a buyer agent, or if like if they want to sell to their neighbor or whatever. And I work that out ahead of time with my broker. You have to make sure they're supporting you on that. But my clients know that I'm not here to necessarily sweep up all the apples and take it myself. And my buyers know ahead of time that if you go to one of my listings, you will be referred out to another agent. And it's not always perfect and pretty, but that's the reality. I'm not going to double-sided deal. And so all of a sudden it changes the conversation, because I'm not a greedy agent anymore in there trying to get all the apples. I'm literally working for the seller. And sellers like hearing that because they've heard a lot of stories where someone gets in there and they bring the buyer and they're not sure they got the best deal because maybe the buyer was also working with the same agent. It's a perception thing. It's a business choice thing. So maybe it makes a lot of sense. And the one time I did it, it made a lot of sense. I'd worked with both clients for over a year. They finally found each other, and nobody really could come in at that point and make it all work. So we signed the dual agency paperwork. We made it happen. It was a horrible, horrible deal. Wonderful people, just a horrible deal because they both felt that the other was getting all the fun and that they were taking all the brunt. And I was like, wow, it's great when the buyer and the seller are both unhappy with you. Like, talk about fun deals. So again, your model might be totally different. You might be like, I love double ending it. But if you're new, especially, consider how you want to deal with that question. It's different to double end it if you're on a team. If a teammate has the deal and you have the deal, that might still be called dual agency or whatever your state defines it as. But mentally, how does your client perceive what's happening? Think about that as you talk about commission with them. And I think it makes the conversation much easier because all of a sudden you're getting half the apples. And they go, oh, well, I see now why you're getting half the apples and they're getting half the apples. And that all makes sense. And those numbers make sense because someone's got to lose out. If the seller agent loses out, now you're paying your competition more than you're paying the person who's working for you. Does that even make sense? And normally they're like, that doesn't make sense. So that's just kind of, you know, again, with commission, how I go through these things.
We have 1 more minute. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. Does anyone else have a burning question that they would like to ask? Go ahead, Johnny.
Just a quick question. Where do you guys find like good stagers?
Excellent question. It's not always easy. I often will call people from my office and see if they have help. Maybe a broker has help. One of the interesting things with stagers specifically is a lot of people are used to stagers like the old-fashioned model of like they bring everything to your house, and so they might not be willing to do the consultation. I will call people whose houses are clearly staged online in my area and say, my gosh, your pictures looked amazing. Who did your staging? And I just call a lot of them. And I'm really big into face-to-face stuff. I'm much better that way. So I'll call them and say, can I buy you a cup of coffee? I'd love to see if we could do some business together. And the stagers normally will. Stagers also, depending upon how much geographic area you cover, stagers may not cover the same territory. So for me, I have a lot of stagers because they won't leave a small cluster of towns, let alone states. I know we can forget that, but some of them only do like 1 or 2 towns or a city, and they might not go outside of Philadelphia. All right, well, that's fine. Then I might need one if I go out to the suburbs for something. So again, and I'm a firm believer, cover your ears, but like all of my vendors should be earning their money every day with me. So every year I reanalyze who I'm bringing to the packet. You got to get in the packet in my world. So like, who am I putting in here? You need to earn that right. It's not just like, oh, great, every lender who ever existed. No, my top 2 or 3 get in here if I have a buyer packet. My top 2 or 3 stagers get in here. I might have 5, but the top 2 or 3 get in the packet. Also, if they're not willing to give me anything to put in the packet, like, this is your opportunity, folks. You want to be in the packet. I'm putting you in front of a person who doesn't know you. Now you're going to get a new client. So that's, I just kind of look at it as another way of networking with people, because then every once in a while they do send you business. If you work with them enough, they'll send you business. They'll be like, oh, Sky knows what she's doing. Give her a call.
Make sure those, referral partners make you look good too. So if you're not happy or if a client's not happy with somebody, make sure you have that conversation and you don't keep using that person.
And stagers in particular, I travel with them the first 3 times they go to a client with me. And if we like them, then they're allowed to go to the client without me there sometimes. Again, all this is knowing your client too. You might have one of those clients, you know, like, I better be there. I better be there because this is not going to go well. Also, because stagers are tough. They're not giving them good news. So it's not really a fun meeting always. So if you feel like you have a really sensitive client, you might want to be there to kind of smooth it. Or I've literally gone behind them, walking with them and whispered like, I don't think you need to do that. That's really not necessary. As they're like freaking out because you can see their face, like this stager is totally terrifying me. So, you know, you kind of sometimes need to feel your own client and know, like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And the other big takeaway from this is the listing appointment is not one thing. It's, as you heard, at least 3 things. So there's the prep for it, there's the appointment itself, and then there's the follow-up. That follow-up may be in person, that follow-up may be email, that follow-up may be text, who knows? But you better have a way to reach back to them again. And so at that listing appointment, whatever you don't have. So let's say I know I've got 2 people on my deed and I've got all the cell and email for 1 person, right? At that listing appointment, I need to get the other person's information. So now I'm wrapping everybody in all the time, right? It doesn't matter if the other partner wants nothing to do with any of this communication. For the first bit, they're going to be on that list. I have divorcing clients right now who are in 2 different states. Neither of them is in the state where the house is. They get everything together, but it all started with the wife. She came as a referral from someone else. And so I'm dealing with a husband I've never met, a wife I've never met in different states who are going through a divorce. And yet everything they get is together and we talk together. And if they forget to CC someone, we get them back on and we CC them all together. Because I think when we're not meeting in person as much, it's really important to make sure that conversations are being shared. Because we forget that, like, oh yeah, that person wasn't on that Zoom. That's a problem.
Awesome insight. Thank you so much, Sky. I know I learned a ton. I'm super, excited to start implementing this stuff in my own listing presentation. So thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and insight with us today.
Thank you. And anyone has follow-up or anything, I'm always happy to chat or help see if I can find something that's, bogging you down. So nice to meet everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.